what about the task-centered approach? The task-centered instructional strategy was specifically designed for the purpose of teaching complex problem solving, teaching in the context of concrete real-world tasks. So till now, it's exactly the same as problem-based learning. A progression of simple to complex tasks serve as the backbone of instruction. So this is different. So where problem-based learning is really talking about one problem, the task-centered instructional strategy is an instructional strategy, meaning that it really looks over an entire course and how should you teach an entire course and not just separate activities. Now, as opposed to problem-based learning, which is more constructivist, the task-centered instructional strategy recommends direct instruction in the context of authentic real-world problem or task. The person who actually wrote this instructional strategy is David Merrill, who you can see here in this picture, and also was my advisor. So the first principles of instruction, which was also his work, he actually specified what are the conditions of learning. So first, it should be a task-centered. Second, he talked about activation. So learning is promoted when learners activate relevant cognitive structures. Third, he talked about demonstration. So learning is prompted when learners observe a demonstration of skills to be learned. When he talked about the experience, he talked about doing and observing. So the third is really about observing. Fourth is application, which is really about doing. So learning is promoted when learners apply their newly acquired knowledge and skills. And integration is means that learning is promoted when learners integrate their new skills into everyday life. So now we're talking about really application to the actual life, as opposed to just the goals of the specific class. So to go into a little bit more details, in traditional instructional strategies, usually what is done is that you teach a course by topics, and at the end of the semester you will have a final project that probably combines all the topics together. Now, the task-centered instructional strategy, which I didn't mention, was actually designed for teaching complex problem solving. The order of instruction is changed. So instead of teaching first topic 1, then topic 2, then topic 3, what you do is first you teach a task. So A is a task, which includes several topics, but it is a simple task. So first you teach how to do task 1, and by doing that you cover different aspects of the different topics. Then you move to task B, which is a bit more complex than task A. And again, it adds additional content to each one of the topics. Then you move to task C, which is more complex than B. And it adds, yet again, more topics to the one that were taught in B and the one that were taught in A. And at the end of the course, the goal is for the students to be able to solve task E, which is a new task and the most complex. The pebble in the pond model is actually an instructional strategy. Also, it's again Merrill's work, and it really talks about the task-centered approach and uses the task-centered approach to develop a course. So the first thing you need to do when you come to teach a course is to ask yourself, what are the students supposed to be able to do when they finish the course? What task should they be able to perform? And then you start with this. So this is the endpoint. Now the second step is building a progression of tasks. So given that by the end of the course they will be able to do this complex task, what could be a progression of tasks from a very simple task, which becomes more and more and more complex till it gets to the goal task at the end of the semester? So after you define this progression of tasks, it talks about the components. So which is really the content that is taught at each one of the tasks. And then it talks about the strategy, which is what should be the strategy to teach each one of these components. And this strategy could be either doing something, or it could be a demonstration of something, and so on. And interface is really about the way the content is actually delivered, whether it's online or face-to-face. And evaluation is how you actually evaluate the student. What's the difference between task-centered and problem-based learning? Similarly, learners are involved with whole tasks or problems in contrary to traditional topic-by-topic approaches. So this is very similar in that sense. Now, if you remember, problem-based learning was very collaborative, where in the task-centered, it didn't really talk about it. So, in addition, problem-based learning do not always provide a sequence of problems and enough guidance. Problem-based learning is rooted in constructivism, which emphasizes collaboration, whereas the task-centered approach is a form of direct learning. So there is actually a very distinct difference between the two approaches. So in summary, we talked about all these approaches. You can see that the team-based learning and the problem-based learning is strongly rooted in collaborative and cooperative learning. All of these three, team-based learning, task-centered approach, and the problem-based learning, are deeply rooted in experiential learning. And the task-centered approach is somewhat different than the problem-based learning and the team-based learning, in that it's, first of all, not necessarily, even though possibly, involve collaborative learning. And also it's a form of direct learning, but in a context of a concrete real-world task. And in terms of the problem-based learning and the team-based learning, these are very, very similar. The only difference is that the team-based learning is really a specific case of a problem-based learning, where the method where the students get a case and they got multiple choice questions and they need to reach a consensus, enables one teacher to facilitate a large group of students, which is often the case in medical schools. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and please feel free to ask any questions, email me, or ask Adam. So bye for now.